welcome to Natural Edge, your OCB all natural resource for all things competition. I'm your host, Sean Sully Sullivan, and I am here with my amazing co host, Jody Shakely Wright, PH Diva.
All good.
And also, I have our new Aubrey clone. Aubrey is still away on her move, so we have somebody who's taken over the studio for her. We have OCB Pro Men's Physique competitor, Roy Best.
What's up, everybody?
Team, how you guys doing?
Hey. Good to have you here today.
Definitely good to be here.
All right, super. So we're going to dive in because I just can't delay. I need to know more. Roy, I ran into you the first time outside of whatever hotel at whatever event earlier this year, and we struck up a conversation, and all of the events just run together anymore anyway. But what stands out in my mind, I want to ask you about in a bit. But before that, I don't know the backstory. So tell everybody the backstory. Let's hear about you.
Okay. So, it's nothing really special. I come from a military family. My dad was in the Army. He was a drill sergeant and he raised us that way. So things like discipline and hard work were foundational. Respect. Those are the things that just made me who I am. And my dad was the kind of guy where, physical fitness and learning were one and the same. And what I mean by that is if I got something right, I would have to do good push-ups. And if I got something wrong, I had to do bad push-ups. So it was, and my dad was the kind of guy where when he was on base and he was training new recruits, he would have me come on base and teach the new recruits how to do push-ups. No exaggeration, at early as 5. So, my dad was old school. So back when they used to try and humiliate a little bit, he'd have me come out there at 5 years old and crank out 20 push-ups to show, the up-and-comers how to do it. So that was kind of my lifestyle as far as fitness goes. It's always been integrated in my life, lived everywhere. So I think that's why I'm really good with people, because I've been exposed to everyone from an early age. I've lived everywhere, all over the world. So I'm not really caught off guard by foreign things to other people. Played sports all my life. My main sport was baseball. Played that through high school. Yeah. I was very good at baseball. A second baseman, a shortstop. Those are my 2 spots. I personally preferred second base. Balls got hit that way more often. Nothing really got by me. But I got out of it only because, unfortunately, sometimes I don't like this term, but I had toxic role models that made me fall out of love with the sport for a long time. And so I just continued my other route, which I'm a big nerd and art was always a big part of my life. Continued school, triple major, graphic design, film, photography. It sounds fancy, but a lot of art degrees, they actually bleed together. If you take this extra class, you can get you can knock it all out. So I did that. And then, I played sports in college, but nothing crazy. And then you just start working. And the sad reality is you get a desk job. You're on a computer for 8 hours plus a day. You're not really doing much other than that. There was constantly there's always cupcakes, cookies. So I'm working and just munching all day. And then one day, I'll never forget it. I felt my space bar tapping. I was like, what is hitting my space bar? And I looked at it like, holy crap, that's me. I'm hitting my space bar. I was like, I got to get this together now. So
what weight did you get up to?
It really wasn't that 180, but a really just sloppy, I call it skinny fat. I never got big, but I was out of shape. I was no conditioning, no nothing. So I had to almost relearn, because when I talk to a lot of older competitors, going to the gym and fitness was a thing, but it's not the cultural thing it is now, right? So I would go to the gym when I would train for baseball, but it wasn't nowhere near the intensity of what it is now. So I had to almost learn from the beginning. And I started with running, and I became a runner for a while. I did a lot of marathons, half marathons. And I kind of stumbled into bodybuilding. It wasn't by choice. I was still doing graphic design. I was in the gym, every day. And one day a trainer came up to me and was like, "You compete?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea what he meant, you know. I knew about some of the greats and stuff like that, but then I watched my first show and I kind of just, I was very, I didn't go all in. I was very casual with it in the very beginning. I would do like a show a year. And then, as I got more serious, I really only did like 2 a year. So this year, doing 4 shows, my body was exhausted. I need to get my endurance up on competing, because these natural boys are doing like 6, 7 shows, they're not resting. So they're a big inspiration of how I want to be going into 2026.
So how long have you been competing? How many years
10
have you been
years.
competing?
So I was,
Oh, really? 10 years.
yeah, so I
Okay.
was on the NPC side,
Mhm.
and I actually did OCB in 2017 or 18. I did the Riptide, which doesn't exist anymore. I think that's now the Double
Oh, yeah.
Down. That
Yeah.
was my first
Yeah.
show, and that was that was a great experience. Other pro OCB people were constantly like, "Roy, you shouldn't be in NPC. You should be over here." Speaking, we were talking off screen about the West Coast people. They were the ones encouraging me, and I did the Riptide, and I had a great time. And the biggest thing I noticed, the difference, was how much they keep you on stage. NPC is like 10 seconds. It's really quick. It's a joke in comparison. OCB, that first show, I felt like I ran a marathon on all the quarter turns and just all the switching. You had no idea where you stood. The battle was so severe. I got off and I was physically exhausted. I felt like I worked out. It was awesome. And so I did that. And then I did I won my pro card there. I did novice debut. I won all the categories, then did the OCB, I think it was called the Richmond show. So the Riptide was like the same time I think the Double Down is November. I'm not November, February.
Yeah.
And then
And then you did
Richmond was like May or something like that.
May.
Yeah,
Yes.
the early
The Super
yeah.
Show or something like that, I think it's called.
Atlantic
I
Super
did
Show.
that. Yep, and I got 5th there, and I wanted to continue, but I put so much time into the NPC. I wanted to see if I could just achieve my pro card, and then I always knew I was going to come back, because especially as a natural guy, like Lifetime Natural, you're around not that, and that atmosphere of individuals who aren't natural. I always had like a chip on my shoulder, like, because they almost think less of you for not using. They think you're being weak or you're not as dedicated. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense to me. So I did that for as long as I did, for me, and to prove that you can do it naturally. It's possible. That was my whole thought. That was my whole drive for why I stayed over there for so long. But once I got it, I proved everything I need to prove.
And so you regained your OCB Pro card this year, right?
Yes.
What show was that?
That was the best opening show I could ever ask for. That was The Conqueror. Frank, man, he does a great job. Again, we were talking off screen. I watched The Conqueror for about 3 years just get bigger and better and more exciting and better for the audience and the competitors. Like it felt like a real show. All the different, things they had going on. I knew that was the show I wanted to do. Once I won my IFBB Pro card, and like I knew, that was that. But let's make a bang and come out the right way.
That's outstanding, and that reminds me that's where I met you. That's where I chatted with you, and I can so appreciate, because I have a past runner life as well. But there was a point in your journey where you became less competition curious and more competition serious. And I want to know more about what coincided with that.
Okay, so I did 4 shows, right? Conqueror was a phenomenal show, but I got my first test at the presidential, and I had no idea how big the presidential was. In my mind, when I decided to join the OCB, I was like, oh, there's 2 shows in Maryland. I'll just do those 2 shows and, I'll, rebound and prepare for 2026. And when I got there, well, first of all, I had a friend, his name is Chris, who also was competing, and he knew everybody because he was already part of the world. He's like, Roy, presidential is serious. It's like, there's a lot of, there's going to be some Yorton champs there. I was like, what? I was like, huh? Being there was a great reminder of why I decided to go to the OCB, because I think OCB gets written off as, oh, they're just a bunch of natty guys. It's not competitive. Oh, blah, 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 blah. It's not true at all. These guys are all top notch. And when I decided to join, in preparation, when I would do my cardio, I would watch, this show, and I would just watch previous shows. And it was a good way to I felt like I knew Joey before I met her. You too, because you guys are at every show. I would constantly see the guy in the cowboy hat going, who is this guy over in a cowboy hat? And then I learned it's showtime. It's just so, months leading up to even stepping on stage, I felt this familiarity with so many athletes and you guys. So, and I just loved the family aspect that I felt from watching the shows and being there. And the competition, like family, puts you in your place. So, I learned during the presidential that I needed to be the best version of myself, because everyone was big, they were sharp, they were conditioned, they were hard, and they didn't hold punches on that stage. And there were so many guys, so many Yorton top tier dudes at that show, that it was a great way to go, welcome to the pros.
And you left a mark, because I was there for that show, for the pros. I watched the pros. I missed the amateurs, but I stayed there for the pros. And you made your mark on that show, and you were on my radar when you came to the Yorton Cup. So tell us about your Yorton Cup experience.
Well, Yorton Cup was, it's the biggest show of my life. So I took my training. I couldn't have been more dialed in and more serious. I think I pushed myself physically and mentally harder than I ever thought possible, because I learned so much from the presidential on what was required to be considered the best. And I felt like the presidential was my worst showing. I struggled with maintaining that hardness throughout the show, and I got a little bit more fluffy as the day went on. I started, releasing water. So my whole goal was to be as tight as I possibly could and just maintain the conditioning, because I knew I was going to have to go up against CK, aka Corey Killer. I knew he was going to be there. He's my height. If I'm going to stand any chance, I need to be able to be competitive against him. If I could stand next to him and not look like a joke, I knew that I'd be okay. And regardless, and I don't like to post a lot before shows, because I like to stay dialed in. But the morning of the show, I made a post just saying that regardless of how everything goes, I have no regrets. I'm proud of myself. I laid it all out there. I'm going to have fun backstage. I'm going to have fun on stage, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. So I was already, before even putting on my trunks, I was already considering myself a winner, and I was just there to enjoy the experience. And it was insane. A class alone, every class, first of all, had a final boss in it. You got there's 6 classes. 4 of them got Yorton champs. 1 of them has Nathan Parker, who's won every show of the year, and then you got me. So I was like, to be considered in that top 6 with those guys is an honor in itself, right? The tier system was amazing. The tier system was great because it went from being a show to it kind of felt like a gladiatorial kind of thing. Like, you felt like you were really battling now. Like, you always feel like you're fighting, but once guys are coming off and on, it felt next level. And I know the competitors I felt it, and when I would talk to people who were watching, they felt it too. You know, they knew something serious was going on when that was happening. So the Yorton was, to this day, the most difficult, challenging, rewarding show I've ever done.
And to update the audience on how you advanced, you know, obviously you killed your class, then you made it into the tier 1 pose down, you made it into the top 3 of the tier 1 pose down, and then you went into the finals. So you were in contention all the way through that show. And the vibe that was out back, the coolest thing is every year I've been at the Yorton Cup. I think I've only missed a few for deployments or whatever, but I think I've been at almost every single one of the 20. I've always been judging, or I've always been doing something. This is the first time I've actually just been the promoter, and all I did was walk around and fist bump. And
Right.
there was a mojo backstage. You know, we were having fun back there.
Yeah.
And it really was. And it carried over. Yeah. And it was so heartwarming to see the culture that we tried to create in the OCB actually culminate perfectly in most categories, but specifically in men's physique. Right. You came in out of the blue as, you know, the underdog.
I tried to be the underdog.
But here you were in the end.
You represented.
But you were, hey, underdog kid, you were scrapping all the way through, you know, at that top, and you were in the mix. You were never out of the mix. You were never out of the mix. And then you went from Yorton, instead of taking a break. What'd you do after that?
You know, let's finish the year on a high. Let's end it back at home. Yeah. So I did the Masters, you know, Masters National. And so if the Presidential is the warm up to the Yorton Cup, the Masters Nationals is the continuation. Because so many of those same guys are at that show. You know,
yep.
Corey Killer's there, Troy's there, Kevin Ames is there, Troy Garnes. I know you know Troy really well. And
I
so
know
like
very well.
Troy is another one of those guys where I watched him all year, over a couple years at shows. Troy was always in the mix. So when I saw Troy at the Yorton, I went right up. I was like, dude, you're amazing. You know? And so just talking about Troy again for a second, it was Troy's birthday at Masters Nationals, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like, Troy is the, what's his name? I can't, the guy, I feel so embarrassed now. He won open bodybuilding. He's from Masters Nationals.
Magnum? Magnum?
Say again?
Oh, Marshall Johnson.
Marshall. Yes.
Marshall.
Marshall's he's the Marshall of men's physique, you know, always there. And again, everyone's great. So my mindset going into Masters Nationals was, you know, let's finish strong, but I'll say I was worn down. I felt it. I felt beat after Yorton. Like my body wanted to exhale. My mind was starting to like waver. That 2 weeks was really tough to stay dialed in. 4 shows and the biggest of my life. Going into this next show, you know, it was tough, but Bobby puts on a great show. You know, he does Masters National, he does Presidential. There's a reason why there's so many guys there. Every class was strong. I was A class. And here's the thing about me. I never know how I stand up against someone right next. It's hard to see how good you are when you're 5 feet from somebody. It's never until you see the video, you see a picture like, oh, I didn't look half bad. I always think I look worse than I do. I'm always in the mindset of just present my best, you know, and hope for the best. So making it to the final round, winning A class. And then again, they surprised us with another tier kind of scenario, which was really exciting. I really hope that sticks around because I think it just adds such a great dynamic to, especially the finals, just creates another, you know, this raw about it all. So getting third, you know, felt great. It felt like a nice cap on the year, you know, just to be in that final winning circle and let me know that I'm on the path, but I still have a lot to do in order to be a number 1 contender. So it was a great show.
And
so
you got to go home with a big check.
Big check.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So 2 things with that. Number 1, you mentioned how you're just really, you don't know how you stack up against the other competitors. And I want to highlight that because that's the mark of a true pro. You're not backstage comparing yourself to what John or Joe or whoever has brought to stage. The other, And I don't want this to get missed. This almost brought tears to my eyes when I realized that you do this, but I think I saw it in a social media post of yours. And then I watched you on stage. I was like, oh yeah, he does. When the awards are handed out, you congratulate everybody else on stage when you walk on stage. And that is just the epitome of sportsmanship. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And who's modeled that for you in your life?
Again, I think that comes back to my dad, and just everything comes down to respect. You know, we all want to win, we all want to do our best, but at the end of the day, we're all people, and we all want to be recognized. So I think the problem, not to get too deep, but there's a lack of just respect for our fellow man. So I don't win if you guys aren't there. You guys make me better. So the least I can do is congratulate you. Good job. If I can, I'll try and always shake your hand, but I always want to acknowledge you every time. And going really quick back to the Yorton, I laugh about it because it was such a winning ceremony, because you're giving these awesome high fives. And you can't hear it in the official video, but in some of the like phone videos from the audience, you can hear our high fives going across the stage. And I love that. It's like a 15-second video of me giving everyone high fives, Sully right behind me giving everyone high fives, because that's what it's all about. Like, at the end of the day, competing is great because, yeah, you want to win, you want to show what you have, but you're finally at a place where you're around people who understand the same struggle that you've been through. Bodybuilding is not a big community. I know it feels that way on social media, but it really isn't. So I talk to people all the time about how, they feel alone in the sport. Their family doesn't really understand what they're doing. They don't have a big social circle. I was in that boat for a long time. So when I'm at a show, yeah, I want to win and I'm staying focused on that. But this is my opportunity to talk to everyone I possibly can. I want to joke. I want to laugh. I want to run into you, Jody, in whatever random hotel we're at. I want to have a good time. Because when you're on stage, once you get to the show, all the work is done. There's nothing you're doing that is going to take you. You can ruin yourself. Don't get me wrong, but all the hard work is done. Now it's time to really enjoy yourself. And I, again, singing OCB's praise, I think they do a good job at that, because I don't want to knock NPC. But, they say the same thing about the show's about you. It's about the competitors. This is your time to shine, celebrate you. But it's almost like you're a number. You're being farmed. It's like, all right, get on, get off, get on, get off, get on. All right, go, 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 go. I've never felt that here. I've never felt like I didn't exist. Going all the way back to the beginning about why I shake everyone's hand and acknowledge them is because we all want to know that we exist to one another. You might have been shooting for first, and if you got fourth, that could be a little heartbreaking. So great job, man. You did your thing. You're here on the stage with me. You can do it next time. That's what it comes down to.
It's the little philosophies like that. And that's what I like to see that our culture is based on. Like, there's a couple of life philosophies that I have, and one of them is sharing the win. And what I mean by that is you can be second or third and share the champion's win at a show. That aura can be transferred down all the way down to the people who didn't place.
Right.
Because if you share it as a fellowship, the fellowship of the iron, brother and sisterhood of the iron, and you share it and you share the moment with everybody, it becomes meaningful. And if you treat your people like people, no matter how they place, then they all become part of that. The show is the victory. And that's one thing that we've tried to develop our culture on. And we're very cautious on how we bring promoters in, because we want to make sure that they're going to do the same thing.
Right.
And that's why you see that. But the other thing, and you get this, is that people conflate power with respect. So they think if they act powerful, if they act nasty, if they act like an a-hole, that automatically brings respect. No, it brings fear, and they don't like you. They just kind of do something to you. But respect is something that's given to you as a gift from another human being because you in return show them that respect. It doesn't have anything to do with the power boundary. It doesn't have anything to do with the hierarchy, whether you're their boss, you're not their boss, you're their subordinate, you're a competitor with them on stage. It's that mutual respect that's gained, and that just makes it so much more flavorful.
Yeah.
That's what makes the show not just like I talk to competitors all the time from back in the day, and they'll talk about a show they won. Like, I don't even remember that show.
Right.
And I won it. I don't remember it. Well, what about that show? Well, I came in third. I remember that and they'll talk about the environment. They'll talk about the feeling.
Yes.
They won't remember what you did. They won't remember what you said. They'll remember how you made them feel. And that's the respect. And that's what you do with your fellow athletes. And that is the biggest reason Jody and I wanted you on this episode, because that's your character.
100%. 100%.
Behavior never lies, my friend. Behavior never lies.
No, your energy is just so contagious, and you totally got the memo on what natural bodybuilding and specifically the OCB is all about.
Well, the funny thing is like, when you spend your time with, not natural people, they're all, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? So it's nice to be, it's nice to be around people. Yeah, sounds great.
Now it's time to follow some other OCB shows that weren't named Yorton Cup, Masters Nationals, or Conqueror. And I'm going to begin with beautiful Cape Cod, Mass, where on October 11th, a good friend of mine, Mike Hudzik, held the Cape Cod Natural. Now, the whole theme behind the Cape Cod Natural is the great white shark. And I have to tell you that this is turning into one of my absolute favorite shows. I love the medal, I love the background, I love just everything about it, having been born in Cape Cod, and Cape Cod now being the great white shark capital of the East Coast. It is so fitting that Mike and his team attacked it like a great white going after the orca in Jaws. It's a movie from the 70s. If you didn't see it, go watch it for our younger audience. With that said, let's roll some footage.
Weeks ago, we had Masters Nationals. Phenomenal show. There are two people I wanted to talk about, if I could. One, I already said I already sung his praises. That's Troy Garnes. Troy, again, he's a phenomenal competitor. He's always in the hunt. I faced him twice now, and each time I was terrified. All right, because he's looks so good. He's gotten sharper. His back has stayed huge, and he's just a tough competitor to beat. He's the nicest guy, and I hope he sticks around for a long time. Now, the other competitor is on the amateur side, so the Chesapeake. His name is Tim. He won his pro card for the men's physique. I wanted to talk about him because he, in my mind, is the living embodiment of determination. He's been competing for 4 years trying to get his pro card. Again, talking about how hard it is to get that pro card in OCB. 4 years he's been trying, and he's finally achieved it, 3 weeks ago. He's done the Conqueror multiple times. He's done the Chesapeake. He's done every show you could. I've always felt bad for him because he's always heartbreaking one placement away. And he finally achieved that goal this time, and I'm proud of him. I'm glad to see him finally win, shine, and I hope he's ready for the pros.
Take a look at some of that footage then.
We put in the time, we've been on our grind, nobody can top. Our time to rise. Our time to rise.
am happy to share about our October 18th show in London, UK. As if promoter Will Carter didn't have enough going on with preparing for the Orton Cup to compete, he was promoting this show as well. And we had 30 competitors for the OCB Great Britain Natural. Let's switch to those abs from across the pond and roll that footage.
We will do this every single year. So today you are a part of history.
The
and
first annual Great Britain Natural. So give yourself a round of applause! Yeah.
I see the dawn of a new beginning. This time we can't go home. I hear the streets of tomorrow calling. I go where you go. 'Cause we belong to something. We belong to something new. In the midst of the midnight hour, you said to me, we are a different kind. Oh, like we've been kissed by a higher power, saying, don't wait until it's gone. 'Cause we belong to something. We belong to something. We belong to
And what I got to say about that Great Britain show is that Will is now going to be building upon something. That show looked amazing. The feedback has been incredible. The entire country kind of was taking a peek going, what's this OCB thing?
Yeah.
Left its mark. That show is going to get huge. Now, speaking of shows that were really, really good and left a mark, I had the opportunity to be in Omaha, Nebraska at the first Muscle Massacre this past weekend. Callie, Yorton Cup champion, did a fantastic job in that promotion. But when I was there, I was hanging out with some of the competitors who love the show. So it's great to see that we're getting a following everywhere, even out in Nebraska. And somebody asked me what's going to be our pro tip question of the day. And it was very simple. Have you ever been tempted to go on anabolics or PEDs? And what have you used as your mindset to keep you away from there? I thought that that was a great philosophical question from three natural pros. So let's hear, team. Have you ever been tempted? Roy, you are our guest, so you go first.
I'll go first. So I think every competitor hits that crossroad, right? You have to, I think, if you want to continue on, it has to at least come in your mind. And for me, of course I thought about it, but at the end of the day, bodybuilding should be a lifelong journey, and the risk, it doesn't pan out for me. If you do it and you change your body almost forever, and you can't go back. Whatever damage you do is done. And to me, it wasn't worth it. To put it simply, I'm happy with the way my body is, and I don't want to add anything that's gonna mess things up. Everything's working fine. I want to keep it that way. Eat my food. I have protein powder. That's it. I'm good. So it just adds another complication that I think isn't necessary. And why run the risk for short-term goals? Because you have to have a life after bodybuilding. You can carry what you learn in bodybuilding for the rest of your life to stay healthy and strong and have good longevity. But just too many guys I've seen, they don't look good in their later years once they get off. And the sad reality is more and more young people are doing it. And I'm like, dude, just don't do it. Stop. I always put it off. Think about it in 5 more years. Put it in the back burner. Keep training naturally. Your body is stronger than you realize. You just got to have the mental fortitude to see it through. I think people just want the shortcuts. They want it now. And life doesn't work that way. If you want lasting change, lasting growth, you have to work for it.
Great points. Great points. All right. I'll take a stab at this one.
All right.
I only had to consider this one time. I only had to answer this question once because it was a lock for me. I mean, first and foremost, I have one kidney. I donated one about 12 years ago, and nothing to me is more important than health. I started competing at 43. I'm 52 now. And you don't hit 40, 50 years old without understanding just how fast time flies. So we often think about what's right here, right now in the moment. Y'all, you need to be thinking about your future because it's going to be here before you know it. And so there are some long-term effects, not to mention the short-term ones, but there's some long-term effects, and you just can't predict how that's going to go down in your body. So it's not a gamble that I'm personally willing to take to step on stage in a bikini. That's where my personal priorities are. And then just, I think about some of the physical consequences, and forgive me, I don't need a deeper voice than I already have. I like my lady parts intact. So there are some things that I want to maintain, right? You take the PEDs, you run some risks. So for health long-term, for remaining feminine and going the natural route in the short term, it's not even a decision to me.
And I know that for a lot of people, it was always a struggle. It's a consideration or whatever. I'm in your camp, Jody. I started competing at 13. Now, back in the 70s, when I met Arnold, steroids were just a thing. But I was a home gym trainer because there was no gyms around. By the time I finally got to a gym, it was the YMCA in Columbus, Ohio. And steroids were open and used there, but they had a strict rule as soon as you'd walk in, and I'm walking in as a 15-year-old, they were like, you don't even ask about it. We won't even discuss it with you until you're 19. And so it wasn't even a question that it was ever going to come up. By the time I moved to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, I started training at a gym that was owned by a guy by the name of Preston Randall, who had just gotten done winning a Natural Mr. USA contest and who was friends with Chet Yorton, who had just started a natural bodybuilding federation and was coached by Vince Gironda, who had a total anti-steroid evil stance and recommended me to him as my long distance coach. And so I roped in with Vince, and I had roped in early on with people who had a very, very strong stance like Chet Yorton, that absolutely verboten. They're cheating. And what's going to happen, I remember having this conversation with Vince Gironda back when I finally went to his Hollywood gym after I joined the Marine Corps. I requested to be stationed out west just so I could be in California and go train with these people. And I'm training in his gym.
That's
and I
crazy.
remember having conversations with him where he said the future of PED use is so bleak that they are going to create such destructive forces that people will be dying at a rate of 2 and 3 people a week from PED use. I have an AI app on my phone that lets me know every time somebody dies with the headline bodybuilder anywhere in the world. Folks, we are at 3 a week now. 3 a week dying of PED use, and the average age is under 55. So I don't know if you guys go on YouTube and you see the frequency, or you have your news stations tuned to it, because if you look this stuff up, I know it's kind of morbid. I just do it as kind of a, wow, here's an awakening. So my short answer is I had the right influences early on in my career who kept me on the straight and narrow. And not once in my entire competitive career have I even considered it. Not even when I ended up, I won a NABA Mr. USA show, which qualified me to fly out to London, England to compete in the NABA USA, like the Arnold, the one that they all won. It's not a tested show. And I did it. And I was the only natural guy on stage. And I had people coming up to me all the time. Here I am at 5'5.5", 58 pounds. And they're like, yeah, you're like Frank Zane, but everybody here is like, Lee Haney and Dorian Yates. And they were the big stars of the day. Haven't you ever considered, you could put on that? No. I went, I'm sure they don't place you after 16th there. Right. I'm sure that out of 32 guys, I'm sure I was second. Didn't care. I went for the experience. never once crossed my mind. So yes, for anybody out here watching this, if you're young, make sure you get the right influences, make sure you get the right information, and make sure you know what you're getting into. There's a lot of really good information coming out now, by guys like Dan Doucette and stuff, that people that have used and talk about it openly and let you know what the pitfalls are. So it's not just cheating and it's not just a shortcut. For some people, it's a death sentence. 19-year-olds dying of heart attacks after only a year of usage. For shame. So stay natural.
Yeah, I think it's not a matter of if, but when you take any of those substances. It's a time bomb. You don't get to choose when it goes off.
And that's why we're doing this. This is why we have Natural Edge, because we know that there's not good information out there. We know there's not a lot of exposure for our natural athletes.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching this right now, this is why we're putting it on. It's not because Jody and I and Aubrey and our guests like to get on and show our faces off on YouTube. It's not it at all. It's because we need a voice. It's because we need a platform to highlight our wonderful promoters, our great athletes, give good information and have it out there to keep people engaged, to give them the notoriety, to make them household names, to give them opportunity that will allow them to also stay natural. And with that, we come to the end of this episode. So as always, train hard, stay safe, stay natural. Sully, team out. Thank you, Roy, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.